So I would like to say hello and welcome to everybody, and welcome to our commercial energy upgrade webinar. So Core Retrofit have partnered with the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland and the Irish Green Building Council to promote the benefits of commercial retrofit across Ireland. My name is Lisa Downey. I'll be your MC for today's webinar. So Ireland's built environment accounts for 12.5% of our greenhouse gas emissions. This is a staggering 58% higher than the EU average. And with over 109,000 commercial buildings in Ireland, with an annual primary energy consumption of 18 million kilowatts, now is the time for you to upgrade your business, reap the value-added benefits, and help Ireland tackle climate change. So during this webinar today, you'll be looking at the energy upgrades available for your business, the SEAI grant available, the one-stop shop service available from Core Retrofit, from application process to design, installation and completion of works, as well as real-life case studies and the benefits associated with upgrades, the financial, environmental and workplace well-being. We will also be talking about Ireland's climate action plan and how we will tackle commercial retrofit in the future for Ireland. So today we have a great panelist, as you can see over here. We have Brian Leddin TD for the Green Party and spokesperson on climate action and the environment. We've Programme Delivery Manager John Flynn from SEAI, and John B. Smith is Core Retrofit's Commercial Manager. So starting off our discussion today, we have TD Brian Leddin of Limerick City, and he is spokesperson for Transport, Climate and the Green Party. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Lisa, and hello to everybody and to everybody on the panel as well. And thank you for inviting me today, and thanks to Core for organising this webinar. And while other speakers will go into some of the details of retrofitting of commercial buildings, I just want to give a bit of overall context to Ireland's climate commitments and how businesses can respond. And whenever I've talked to business owners about what they need from policy and from government, a word that I hear again and again is certainty. And this year, the Oireachtas gave that certainty by passing the Climate Act 2021. And it's a piece of law that defines the framework for how Ireland responds to the climate crisis. So what certainty does the Climate Act give? It puts two targets into law, a target to reduce our emissions by 51% based on 2018 levels by 2030. And then there's the 2050 target, which is to achieve net zero emissions by that year. Net zero is basically that greenhouse gas emissions that we emit in 2050 will be balanced out by greenhouse gases that are sequestered in the ground or in, for example, forests, which I'm sure you've heard a lot about. So there's an independent climate change advisory council. It has responsibility under the Climate Act to set 5-year carbon budgets for each sector. And we expect the first set of carbon budgets to come out in the next few weeks. The carbon budgets are not to be confused with the annual exchequer budget. They have nothing to do with money. They're very much about setting ourselves the maximum amount of carbon that we can emit as an economy and as a society. And they are 5-year budgets. So in the next few weeks, we'll probably see the first two. So 2 5-year carbon budgets set. And the idea is that the carbon budget reduces then over time, all the way through to 2050. And it aligns with that net zero objective. In the next few weeks as well, the government will come out with its climate action plan. So it's basically a roadmap for how each sector can keep within the carbon budgets. So what does this mean for owners and occupiers of commercial buildings? We don't know exactly what the carbon budgets for the commercial sector will be yet, but I can say with some certainty that by the end of the decade, emissions from commercial buildings will have to reduce by about 50% and probably a bit more than that. And every sector is going to have to play its part in this climate action agenda that we are pursuing quite vigorously. So I can say that we have that certainty now, and that creates commercial opportunities for companies to work to help achieve this reduction in emissions, but also businesses will have that certainty and that confidence to make that investment in retrofitting their buildings. The state will help. 14 million euros was announced in January to help businesses make the transition, and the SEAI's Exceed standard is a clear and comprehensive guide to making commercial buildings energy efficient. I also believe that companies who act now and improve their buildings will see a competitive advantage in being a carbon efficient business, as we see that emissions arising from provision of products and services will become more and more important in the market, as customers would be making purchasing decisions based on this information. So Lisa, that's it from me to begin with. And again, thank you for the invitation, and I look forward to hearing from the other speakers.
Thank you, Deputy Leddin. And I think it's great that we have a strategy and plan in place that we will hear about more in the end of 2021 and for the future. And I think our next speaker, John Flynn from SEAI, will be able to give us some more guidance as well. So John, I will hand
would you, yeah. So you can see that now? Okay. So my name is John Flynn. I'm the program manager for Better Energy Communities. The Communities program is aimed at every facet of our society. So from our homes to public sector, private sector, which means every business, from small, medium to very large, including we got a bit of a kicking recently about supporting a very large American corporate, but very large American corporates provide Irish jobs here. So we do touch on everybody. And as Deputy Leddin has said, this is the current environment we're working within. The Climate Action Plan commits us to reduce carbon by 50% by 2030 and net zero by 2050. The climate agenda has been very much set by the Green Party, who are in government. So from a climate perspective, this is a very positive thing we would suggest. I'm also noting that the UN have recently issued a communication report suggesting that we're very late addressing the issues of climate change. We need to do more. We need to do it quicker. And the target of 2% heat increase is very close to being there already. So we do need to take serious action. So policy decisions that have been made is a 7% CO2 reduction per annum going forward. Just to put that into some sort of context, that was delivered in 2020, 7%. But we were all, industry closed down, we were all working from home. So you can see the type and size and scale of effort that's required to address that level of reduction. There's a policy decision to electrify heating systems. We're electrifying our transport systems, and by transport we mean private vehicles with grants, and we have carbon budgets which will be coming up. And there's a clear direction in relation to carbon and carbon taxes that they will go to €100 over a period of time, so as that the average citizen can start to make informed decisions about buying his vehicle, his heating system. All of these decisions, as you see, diesel may be increasing in price, the price of electric vehicles becoming cheaper, and heating decisions around oil, gas, or electrification. Other considerations that we have to think about as we look at climate change, climate action, carbon budgets is industry, agriculture, transport, such as heavy goods. And we move into the new green hydrogen sort of sphere. we're all currently aware of the price of gas and electricity. In relation to gas, we're at the end of a pipeline that comes all the way from Russia. So we have security of supply issues to start giving consideration to. I'm sure people are aware that there's been talk of blackouts and grid capacity being delivered, which is a very significant issue, again, for industry if we have blackouts. So these are just a diagram of where we are in 2018, 63 million tons of CO2, and we need to get it down to 31,000 by 2030. Now, we're not just making this up. When I say we, I mean government and ourselves. We as SEAI have a unit that tracks the emissions by industry sector. We've done it for the last 15, 20 years. We continue to do so. And we're making projections, and these are rough estimates of what we think needs to happen to deliver the carbon reductions. And policy then will be set around what's required. And as you can see, there's transport, buildings, and we will discuss homes as well. And agriculture is there. So we're not suggesting in SEAI that we have all the solutions. We're open to change policy, and I'm sure the current minister, will have new policy directions for us to take on, and new challenges. So we are looking for help, and we are looking for new thinking. When we say new thinking, this is something like new thinking. This is a PV farm down in Kinsale. It is about a €5 million investment. It is one industry. It is a farmer manufacturer who invested €5 million with grant support from SEAI. So we do very big investments, as you can see. This array supplies the factory alone. It could supply, if the factory wasn't operational, it could supply most of Kinsale and a whole section of County Cork. But it's important we stress this factory is 24/7, so all the production here goes into this said factory. But you can see the size and scale of what is possible. Now, we also want small. So we don't just want the big stuff, we want small. We want every individual, every organization to start thinking, what can we do? What investments can we make? This is a small investment by a small an egg producing farm in Cavan. It is a relatively small array, but again, this farmer on a nice sunny day is effectively off grid. His supply of heating for the chickens and for the processes that he needs to take the eggs and put them into a saleable product are fully self-sufficient from this array during the day and during a nice sunny day. We also need to start thinking about, as I said, green hydrogen, battery storage, wind, both onshore, offshore, solar. I've given you two examples there. We need to start thinking about self-generation. How do we self-generate for consumption in our industries and our businesses? Maybe at home, you might think about solar PV panels. But we need to start thinking about reducing usage, being more clever with what we use, and then making sure it's green if possible, and energy efficiency measures. And energy efficiency is not always sexy. These are two different sites. As you can see, on one side, we have a big box of electronic equipment. And the boxes of electronic equipment do various different things. It either produces heat or helps you produce heat more efficiently, cooling, air changing, or a box can control the building and the environment in which a building and industries work in. So we would ask industries to be open about all the possibilities of saving energy, all of which can be grant supported by SEAI. On the other side, then, we're looking at the old-fashioned slabs of insulation. Not very sexy, but really, really important. This is how we make sure that our homes and our buildings, be they factories, places of employment, schools, creches, stay energy efficient, stay warmer for longer with less heat requirement. I'm just going to mention two new initiatives from SEAI. The first one is an SME support, which provides finance to SMEs and small business to do energy audits. So we, as I've said to you, touch many different facets of business. We do beverage manufacturing. Just for 2021, we'll do beverage manufacturing, we'll do concrete production, we will do warehousing facilities, agriculture, retail, holiday hotels, and sports facilities. So a very wide and diverse range, and the number of technologies that we would use are wide and diverse. But the starting point is always an audit. So if you have a building, you have either a manufacturing process or an office space, you need an audit done to tell you what energy you're using, how you're using it, are you using it efficiently, and what can you do to reduce, reuse, and make your building cheaper and more green. And SEAI are providing a voucher for organizations to go out and get an energy audit done. It's available on our website. If you go in, there's a panel of experts. You can select the panel of experts, send in an electronic request, and we will support up to €2,000 for an energy audit. Now, very large organizations, the cost of an energy audit could be considerably higher than €2,000, but for the vast majority of SMEs, we suspect €2,000 would be sufficient to give you a very good starting document. And from there, then you're in a position then to approach the likes of CORE or other project coordinators to examine opportunities for getting the works that are recommended in the audit funded up to 30%. The other new initiative this year will be to support energy communities in providing them with resources to assess homes and businesses or the likes of halls, parochial halls, or community buildings to support them in getting energy audits done of their buildings so as they can start the process as well. Just in relation to the scale of budgets that SEAI has, and therefore the commitment that government is putting into this, this carbon problem that we have, you can see over the last couple of years, our budgets have gone from 80-90 million euro up to 300 million in 2021. And our budgets for the next number of years probably in the region of 1.5 billion, which is not insignificant. And certainly the range of businesses, the range of people, and the range of activities in which we will engage with society will increase significantly in the next number of years. Just to very briefly touch on, we all live in homes, the scale of what we need to do in homes. By 2030, we need to do 500,000 homes. And the local authorities alone own 200,000. So it's a huge amount of work that's required to do homes. And the estimated bill will be 10 billion to do 500,000 homes. Now, clearly, the government cannot afford to do all of that on their own. So it will be a number of things that will happen. It will be the carrot and the stick. The carbon budgets, as they will be rolled out, will give a plan and tell society and citizens what's coming down the lines so that they can make informed decisions early. So as I've said, a number of supports are coming out to support SMEs. We've got community funding available to support communities as they wish to transition to more energy efficient practices. And the community energy grants, which is the sphere in which I work in, is going to get bigger. The value of contracts is going to get significantly bigger also. and longer time frames will be allocated to do the works. Just to give you a quantum of scale, this year the maximum grant we would issue would be about €2 million, which means that the grant works would be for projects could be in the region of somewhere between €5 to €7 million. Next year we anticipate that grant contracts could be in the region of probably €5 million. Therefore, the works and grant works associated with each individual contract will be somewhere between 17 and 15 million euro. So very significant volumes. Just to put 2021 into context, we will support 309 industries. Now, that is not community buildings, that's just industry buildings. So SMEs, large corporates, small corporates, 309 is what will be supported, and that includes agriculture. The value of the works just for those 309 buildings will be 78 million euro with grants of 22 million euro. So as you can see, SEAI are here to help. If anybody wants to contact CORE or contact myself, we're more than happy to provide you with assistance. And the objective at the end of the day was to make you more energy efficient. And as we've said, there is funding available for you to do stuff. There is funding available for you to become more green, more energy efficient. And the value of that funding is 30% of the works that you may wish to do. That's it from me. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, John, and thank you for your presentation. And as you said, there are supports available from SEAI, and John B. Smith, who is up next, our commercial manager here at Core Retrofit, he will be discussing the grant process and the measures involved. So John Flynn, if you'll be able to stop sharing and then make John B. The host, please. And just well, if you have any questions, please put them in our questions and answers box or the chat box below, and we will address them at the end.
Now, that should be over to you, John.
Thank you, John. John B, you're on mute.
No, hello.
Can you expand the screen, please, John B? Sorry.
Say that again.
Can you make bigger the screen so everybody can see the whole presentation? There, in that one. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Very good. Yes, indeed. Hello, and everybody. My name is John B. Smith, and I am the program manager here for Core Retrofit on the commercial jobs. I'd just like to start by saying thank you very much to Deputy Leddin and John from SEAI for giving us a very informed rundown on what's happening at policy level. But here at Core, I suppose we touch on all those things as well. But we want to, just like John says, we want serious action in being able to bring grants to commercial premises, okay, up and down the country. So our talk today, we will be talking about our work and relationship with SEAI, and then I will go on very quickly and show you and demonstrate how the retrofit commercial process actually works. We'll talk about the projects that we've done so far and the grants that they've achieved, and then we'll finish off with a case study there for NUIG in 2020, and then of course some questions and answers afterwards. Okay. So Core Retrofit, we've been working with SEAI on the Better Energy Community Scheme for the last 7 years. Okay, so this is a relationship that's evolved over time, and with any relationship, you know, you get to know the person, and we have to say working with SEAI is very, very easy for us. Okay, so in those last 7 years, we've gained an in-depth knowledge of all of the SEAI schemes and their requirements, making us one of the leaders, I suppose, in making applications to SEAI. We have an exceptional track record. I think we have a 100% pass rate on commercial inspections, which is, for me, is a great thing to have. All right. So I suppose why commercial energy upgrades? Well, as John mentioned, there's grants of up to 30% available for the 2022 projects in both the private and public sector. which of course will improve the payback for, and obviously then making sign off from management an awful lot easier on your project. The buildings themselves will be an awful lot healthier and happier employees with a healthier, more comfortable place to work. And then the most important thing is, like John and Deputy Leddin were saying, we have to fight climate change, guys, and reduce the carbon footprint for a better future for people that's coming after us. Okay. And John did mention there about the €2,000 grant voucher. Okay, so this is basically a €2,000 voucher for small, medium, even large enterprises to get an energy audit. And I will go on then and I'll show you why the energy audit is so important for these projects. So the type of projects that can get grant approval, well, you've obviously got the building fabric upgrades. That could be insulation, windows, doors, attic insulation, renewable energy technologies, including the heat pumps, moving away from carbon, and the solar PV systems. Now, it's important to note that if anyone does want to come to us with any of these systems, and especially solar, we must have a secondary measure with them. Otherwise, we cannot get a grant for you on that project. Electrical upgrades. So anything electrically driven has no problem whatsoever. We will get you a grant on it. That would include ventilation, pipes, ductwork upgrades, cooling and refrigeration upgrades, which are significant energy users at the moment in refrigeration on projects. Motors and drives, they generate lots of energy savings, and of course we would be able to help with that. Plant upgrades, so you could be talking about a process upgrade, you could be talking about a system upgrade. Basically anything energy efficient measure that's specific to your business or industry is eligible or potentially eligible for a grant. Okay, so we'll go on and we will show you now some of the projects, and just to show you what we can get in terms of grant aid specific. So you can see there down in the first column there, we've all the projects that we've done in the last couple of years, and then you can see the project value for the grant. So BC 1149, if you look at there, the third project up from the end, the total project cost there for a multi-faceted type of project, you had a large scale commercial, domestic, you had all different types of businesses getting involved there. The total project cost for that community grant scheme was €5.468 million, with a total grant available there of 1.7 million. And one of the entities in that particular application is receiving at the moment, once it's finished, €1.5 million of a grant. That's 1.5 million. So whether it be a small project like John said, or a large project, multinational, the government and SEAI are willing to assist. So what we wanted to do today is to show you what's involved, because a lot of people come to me and say, John, how do I get a grant? So we've streamlined the application. We've a clear strategy to help you, the end user. How can you get a grant from us? And well, our job here in Core Retrofit is to help you facilitate that grant. That's what we're here for. So we have a couple of steps here, 12 steps to achieve a grant, all right? And the process itself starts right now today. So when you're finished, listen to us here, pick up the phone, get in touch with me, all right? My phone number will be on at the very end. And the process, as you can see in the top left-hand corner, can take somewhere between 12 and 16 months. So you start off by making that initial phone call to us here in Core. We then, in step 2, we will evaluate your project verbally over the phone and make some recommendations. And then, as John said, the energy audit is the most critical point, part of the application process. So we will evaluate it. We will see if the project will meet all the criteria for SEAI, and then we will recommend, like John said, an energy audit. And so we actually have a list of approved contractors who can do the energy audit, but not only do that, but also know the criteria for SEAI, which is very important, so that your project can get approval once the project is passed. So once we've got your energy audit and reviewed it ourselves internally, we will then come along and then we will aggregate all the different projects and put them into an application and submit them then to SEAI, which probably at this time of the year will probably be December and January, okay? That project then will go out for evaluation to SEAI, and they will do all their checks and balances, and roughly within about 3 months, we should be receiving a letter of offer for the overall project. Once we get that letter of offer, we will be back in touch, and we will also arrange a meeting between all the retrofit contractors at your project and the beneficiary finance department as well, because all of these are very important to have all on the one page. works commence on site, we will conduct interim and final inspections to make sure the work is done to the SEAI exacting standards. All certification will be then forwarded to CORE, and then all the invoices from the contractor to you, the end beneficiary, where that's getting the work done, and our grant facilitation invoice will all be sent to the beneficiary. The beneficiary then will make those payments to the contractor and to CORE, and then we will assemble all those invoices and make a request for payment. SEAI then are at their discretion, can select your site for inspection, and once that project is passed the inspection, it then will move to the grant payments section in SEAI, whereby it can take probably within 4 to 6 months after all the project is passed. You would see then SEAI will transfer the grant to CORE, who are the lead applicant, and then in turn we will forward your grant to you, the beneficiary. Okay, and that really is the process is streamlined down as best we can. If you have any more questions on this, we'd love to be able to talk to you. So we have a case study here we also wanted to show the range of projects and the size of the projects that we can work with here in CORE. And this one is NUI Galway that came to us in 2019, in around November, December 2019, and they had a project and they had multiple projects approved with CapEx expenditure. And they asked us, could this get a grant? Can that get a grant? And we looked at all those projects and we ultimately were able to say, yes, you could get a grant. Okay. So I'm just going to play this video here and you can sort of see the work that was done. There were LED lights upgrades, there were pumps and motors, there were solar PV systems and a ventilation upgrade as well. So that's the campus down in Galway. The works were from Donegal all the way right down to the Shannon. So it's worth noting here as well that in 2022, the SEAI unfortunately cannot fund any LED upgrades at the moment. So that is something just to note on that. This project in itself would be saving 328,000 kilowatt hours in energy and over 181,000 kilowatts in renewable energy as well, with a CO2 saving of 210,000 kilograms. Cost savings on site have been estimated through the end of monitoring verification of €61,000, which is now being ring-fenced for further energy efficiency projects. And my contact in NUI Galway has said they're willing to put forward a project for 2022, which is great. So I hope that brief rundown has certainly been able to demonstrate that from policy right through to delivery, that projects are happening on the ground, and we at CORE Retrofit are more than willing to talk to you about your project. And thank you very much for welcoming any questions at this moment.
Thank you, John B. And just to remind you, if you have any questions, to pop them in the questions and answers box below or the chat box. Thank you, John. If you'd like to stop sharing the screen there so we can see all the panelists. And this week, our Taoiseach Micheál Martin spoke at the UN General Assembly about Ireland's commitment to climate action. And this includes also the, like John Flynn was saying, and Deputy Leddin, the Climate Action Plan of 2021. And Deputy Leddin, what key action item in the Climate Action Plan do you feel will be most beneficial for commercial businesses in Ireland?
Thanks, Lisa. We don't know what's going to be in the Climate Action Plan 2021. It's going to be out in 2 or 3 weeks' time. I think it's going to be a very significant step up from the 2019 Climate Action Plan. I know that the Minister and his officials are working through it. It's likely to contain hundreds of measures across all sectors. I would expect in commercial buildings, I think I'm not speaking with any knowledge of the discussions that are going on, but I would expect that Part L, perhaps of the technical guidance documents, I would expect that we'd see a tightening up there, or a plan to tighten it up, and it has actually improved a lot, as you know, in the last 10 years. But as you said at the outset, is it 12.5% of our emissions come from our building stock? a lot of that's the commercial building stock, and a lot of it's quite difficult to retrofit, and the likes of Core are incredibly aware of how difficult it is and expensive as well. So I would expect that coming out of the climate action plan, there will be a lot of guidance around that, tightening of regulations, and I think financial assistance as well. That is certainly what I would be hoping to see.
Thank you, Deputy Leddin. And a question to the floor of who answered. Just a question here from Stephen. How much investment is being provided to colleges and other educational facilities to upskill people so that they can undertake retrofit and carrying out life cycle carbon studies? Deputy Leddin or John Flynn?
I'm just reading it there, Lisa. Yeah, I don't have the answer to hand. It's certainly something I can go and check with, and it's Minister Simon Harris. That's his department, and I've no doubt that there is interaction between his department and Eamon Ryan's, which is climate and energy. I don't know if John Flynn has specific knowledge on what's going to third level institutions.
Don't have specific knowledge of say government investment in third level, other than third level participate in our schemes, but there's a huge amount and huge volume of courses being run to educate a number of people, quite a large number of people, in all the different facets. We will need both engineers, environmental engineers, and all of that. So there is quite significant investment in quite a number of different courses. But we do provide a lot of funding under the community scheme. I think we DCU on the scheme last year. As John has said, we've NUIG. So we do provide hard cash when they come forward with projects. So as I said, government are doing it in both projects on one side and investment in our young people going forward.
Thank you, John. Another question perhaps for yourself, John Flynn, is another question from Stephen. Is the solar PV aid limited to a certain amount of kilowatts of the solar PV system?
No, currently the problem with solar PV, and not a problem, shall we say, is if we all decide to put solar PV on our homes, that's fine. But if we put too much solar PV, we'll actually damage the grid. And therein lies the problem. So we will support solar PV for self-consumption. If it's not for self-consumption, we can't support grid connections, for example. So we continue to support PV, and we're delighted to support PV, but it should not be your first measure. It should not be your first course of action. It should be part of a suite of measures, and we only want to fund self-supply.
Thank you, John. And we just
I might come in there on that, Lisa, as well, just to support what John said, which is SEAI policy and government policy. But there's a follow-up question from Eric, which I can see there, about producing more PV than the premises requires, and can that be sold back? In the next few months, that will be the case. Now, the idea, as John says, it's not, we don't want every household or every business in the country becoming independent power producers, and that will be their primary aim. But there will be situations where they have PV installation on the roof of their building or in the lands surrounding, primarily to provide power for their own use. But there will be situations where they're producing excess power for whatever reason. They mightn't have a significant power load in summertime, and the sun might be shining, and the excess, then they will be able to spill back to the grid and receive a price back from that. We had hoped to have this up and running by this summer, but it's been delayed by a little bit. So in the next few months, we expect to have that scheme up and running.
Thank you, Deputy Leddin. And just another question when we're speaking about solar PV, agriculture is, as you had said, John Flynn, in your own presentation, emits a third of our greenhouse gas emissions in the industry alone. So this is a huge industry that we can tackle in commercial grants and commercial energy upgrades. And one we done, John B did with Callan Farm in Louth, was a dairy farm of 450 cows, which had 60 kilowatts of solar PV installed last year. And I was on the farm there a few weeks ago, and it's incredible because they have robots milking the cows, and almost 70% of his electricity is generated by the solar panels, and his bills are cut in half. So will this agricultural sector be a target for SEAI, for the government, because they are the biggest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions?
I suppose we'd love to say yes. The problem, not a problem, but you know, there's all these farmers, we need to tell them in some way, and it's getting the message down to them. I myself was on site on a pig farm, which is not too sexy, but again, we have solar panels, we had heat pump technology, and we had air ventilation systems being installed. We also had pads for the pigs to be lying on that keeps them warm, because apparently little piglets, they need to be kept really warm to survive. I didn't notice. So in short, we would love to do and love to look at every individual farm and do what we can. What we tend to have seen in the last year or so is we have a PV installer, shall we say, driving around looking at sheds going, oh, there's a big shed, I can put PV there. That's not the approach we want. What we want is a farmer to come to us, having looked at his building, and dairy farming is a great example, especially with the robotics. They're milking all day. The milk comes out warm. It has to be cooled down. There's also hot water required. So where we're putting PV on the roof to run the robotic milking machine and address and use very efficient cooling for milk and hot water production, that's the solution that we want. We don't just want PV on a roof. So if we can get farmers looking at their site and saying, oh, here are the measures we take, that's where John B was suggesting that we don't just want PV, but we will do PV if that's the only measure possible on that site. But we want the full solution to be, there's no point in us producing PV energy if we have really inefficient milk cooling or hot water production on the same site. Let's do the whole lot together. And therefore, the cost of PV on the roof will actually fall because we've addressed the other energy consuming devices on the site.
Thank you, John. And when we think about the diversity of commercial buildings, for example, Core Retrofit have worked on offices, monasteries, funeral homes, farms, and everything in between. What advice would you give to a commercial business in any aspect on how they will proceed and with the different energy upgrades? And would you suggest one over the other, or would you have the whole ecosystem of the various measures?
I suppose the easiest thing to do is, if you can, look at your energy use. So is it oil because you're heating a building, or is it electricity because you have either ventilation, refrigeration, or other processes which are using electricity? They're the easy projects. You know, the harder projects might be a fabric upgrade, but the easy project, where you're going to get biggest bang for your buck. And getting an energy audit should give you a list of, here's the first measure you should be done. And actually, does the 30% funding from SEAI allow the second, the third, and the fourth measure being done? And if it doesn't, does the first measure being done and the savings that you're going to generate from that, does that now allow for measure 2, measure 3, and measure 4? So if you can't afford measure 1, you should be able to afford measure 1. If you can't, you're in real trouble. An energy audit should point to that, and you can do it in one lump sum or a couple of bite sizes.
Thank you, John. And as you were saying about upgrading measures, there are many benefits, and one is the financial savings. Like that farm in Louth have cut their electricity costs by 50%. But as John B had mentioned in his presentation, it's also environmental and workplace well-being. So John, can you tell us, John B, the different benefits that you have seen working with commercial retrofit regarding environmental and workplace well-being. John B, you're on mute.
I'm always on mute, haven't I? But it's, yes, Lisa, back to your point there, but not just about the energy upgrade. So it's about environmental as well, but it's also about workplace satisfied. You know, when the employees are in and everyone's back in the offices now shortly, you want a comfortable environment. And what I've noticed myself with using renewable technologies, once you've improved the fabric and once you then introduce the renewable heating systems, a lot like the heat pump, you're getting a building that now has an even temperature right throughout the whole building. So whether you're in the toilet, whether you're in the office, whether you're in the boardroom, you've got this continuity of heat and comfort level, all right? And what I also see with introducing ventilation systems into these buildings as well, a lot like the schools, we're doing a project with the schools as well, we're seeing this children in the schools benefiting as well. You've got, at the moment, all of the schools in the country have to have their windows open for ventilation, right? We are doing a project, have completed a project at the moment, whereby the children are in the school, they're learning in the proper environment, and they have a ventilation system in there as well. So both the staff, the pupils, everybody is benefiting. So it's not just about the energy savings, it's about the health and well-being of the inhabitants.
And I would just want to say thank you to Brian Leddin TD with the Green Party for attending today. He has to rush off. And I'd like to say thank you, and we will continue with questions and answers. But thank you, Deputy Leddin.
Thank you, Lisa and Maria, and the two Johns as well. Good to meet you and everybody watching. And we might do it again sometime.
Sure.
Great. Take care.
Thank you, Deputy Leddin.
Bye-bye.
So guys, we have another question from Vincent here. So what are the incentives or tariffs for feed-in of the backup generation and process of power? So not necessarily solar PV, but from a CHP or biogas application. The grid issues at the moment with 2 CCGT stations on extended unplanned outages highlights an example where this might not make sense to encourage industry with green generation. John Flynn, perhaps I'll hand it over to you first.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the acronym we have. We do currently have a grant support for generation, not necessarily through CHP, but certainly through biomass production, where you can sign up and get both support for the capex of the install and for the production of electricity and supply. There would be a 15-year agreement pay in. RES, I think, is the acronym, and it's SSRH. If anybody wants to look up the SEAI website, it's SSRH, and I can't for the life of me remember what that stands for, but there is grant support for biomass production of electricity currently, yeah.
Thank you, John. Vincent, I hope this answers your question, and you'll be able to look up SSRH on SEAI's website as well. Has anybody got any other questions for our panelists before we will end today's webinar? I'd just like to thank everybody for attending, and thank you to Deputy Leddin, to John Flynn from SEAI, and Core Retrofit's John B. Smith. You can on our social media, Core Retrofit or Core Insulation also, and SEAI.ie. And another amazing resource tool is the Irish Green Building Council, and they're at igbc.ie. So we thank you, and the recording will be available up on YouTube, and we will send out the email addresses of all the panelists if you have any other questions. So thank you for joining us today, and we hope you'll be able to join us at a future event. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.